Ah! Alright. Um, a few people actually asked if I would make gnocchi. And yes, I would love to, and I'm going to, but a few things that you need to know about gnocchi before you make them. One, there's no way to cheat. It is time consuming, and you have to really go through all of the steps correctly and somewhat meticulously. I've compiled a couple of the steps previously because they're just boring and nobody wants to watch it. I take a metal bowl and I put it in the freezer for however long, like for at least 2 hours. The metal bowl can sit in the freezer, and then I use white rose potatoes. You can use any potato. You can even use sweet potatoes. They come out really nice, but it's a bit of a different process. So I use a white rose potato. Kennebecks work really well. Colorado Golds, Yukon Golds, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the thing that you're going to want to pay attention to if you're going to make something is the starch content. A dense, heavy potato will make a dense, heavy gnocchi. And the thing that makes gnocchi beautiful and amazing are that they're light and fluffy and airy. And this is also why I never order gnocchi in restaurants, because unless I know like 5 or 6 chefs that make fucking amazing gnocchi. Other than that, I'm always dissatisfied, disappointed, and I leave unhappy. So anyway, so you boil your potatoes after they're completely peeled. You want to take all the eyes and knots and discolorations out of the potato, whack them up. It doesn't matter what they look like. They should be similar size. Throw them in rapidly boiling salted water, salty like the sea. Let them go until they're beyond mashed potato soft. So if they're starting to fall apart in your hand, you cooked them a little too long. But if you take them out and you can just squish them, they're good to go. So you want them to be soft and develop that free starch. All right, so then you put them in the cold bowl and mash them. So you want them to be nice and creamy and fluffy and like a mashed potato, but you want it to cool quickly, retaining the free starch. Once you've got that in your bowl, you're going to take an egg, put the egg in another bowl. We had an incident the other day with one of the eggs being bad, and it went into a cake batter, and then we had to throw that away because the egg was fucked and everybody was screaming. Anyway, so I use one egg, and then I covered the top with olive oil. And yes, you cooked it in salted water, but then a little salt in there as well. You're going to cook it again in salted water, so don't go crazy with the salt. Once you've got that in there, you're just going to mix it so that it goes. If you have a bowl mixer, it actually works really well for this as well. Just whack it in with the dough mixer until it's all one consistency. All one consistency, and you want to do it quickly because touching this a lot is actually going to affect the density of the final product. And nobody likes dense gnocchi unless you're Slovak and you make klošky all the time, which is basically dense brick version of gnocchi. All right, and then I know people that don't use flour in gnocchi. I use a little bit. This is standard AP flour. If you want, you can get 00 Caputo flour. I've used that, but what I've found is that I end up using more flour. So if I use the AP flour, I use less, and to me, it seems like it's a better product. I know that everybody that makes a really good gnocchi, I've never seen anybody make it the same way. So once you get that, you want to just pop your flour down, just like you're beating down a dough for bread. And then you get it all happy, one consistency again. And then you want to flour your board a little bit. Because we're just going to pop this right out. This is going to be a long and probably boring video, but it is really one of the world's most amazing dishes when you make it right. And then what I do is I just bench knead it. The flour that's on the board, fold it, bring it in, because you don't want to touch this a lot. You want to just get it to where it sticks together and holds its form as one entity. And it'll have that sheen to it. If you lose that, then you're losing the glistening happiness. The sheen is actually going to be the olive oil popping through, binding to the starch, and making a glossy look to it. All right, so now you've got that popped down like a baby's ass, and then put it in a piece of plastic. You should already have your plastic stretched out, because if you're trying to do it with one hand and you've got a dough all over your hand, giant mess, you're gonna end up cussing all the time, killing 4 of your kids or something. All right, and then just fold it over. You don't want air in there. Pop, 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 pop. If you have a little bit coming out, that's fine. Just roll it over, seal it, plop. Now, if you're going to make your gnocchi, if you have like time, you want to make them in advance, you can. And I actually know a very famous, really good chef who freezes them after he makes them into dough. I don't do that. I just let it sit wrapped up nice and tight, hour, 2 hours. It'll develop, it'll proof, and then you can roll them out and cut them into gnocchi, and we'll boil them. We'll do that next. Bye. All right. So what we're gonna do is start making the sauce for this, because you want it actually to compile its layers and become happy when your gnocchi are done, because the gnocchi don't take long to fucking finish. So you've got your water, super salty like the sea. Just let that go, because if it boils and reduces, you end up with reduced water, which isn't gonna happen. You can always pour more water in there and you're good to go. Pan, already have the fire on. You want it good and hot. Olive oil. You don't want a lot, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You just want the bottom layer covered with some olive oil. We've got some prosciutto. You can use San Daniele, of course, is like the deal that you want to get. But if you're going to your supermarket, you know, if the best you can get is even bacon, okay, it'll work. But this has much more subtle character, and it's the basis of the flavor complexity of this sauce. All right, so we got that going. We're just gonna let that go, and then we're gonna do some gnocchi rolling. I rolled a few out here. It's our blob of dough. It's nice and tight, but it's still slacked off a bit. So you wanna take it and have some flour on your bench, because we're gonna bench knead again. And if you have a bench knife, that's great. I don't have one. Not here. Okay, so throw your blob on there, and you just want to roll it, but you want to be really tender when you're rolling it. You don't want to push down. You're not really kneading. You're just rolling it into a little tube. When you get it there, push that back over there. Okay. Now, if you had a bigger surface, I'm just using this board, I would just roll them out really long. You don't have that here, or I don't have that here. So take into consideration what size of space you have that you can work with. Get it in, and then just cut, pop, just like playing hockey. Now there are people that will put this into a bag and pipe it out and cut it with scissors. If you're like a super old Italian grandma, use your fingers. You don't think that metal should ever touch the gnocchi. I'm not an old Italian grandma, and my old Italian grandma, she cut them, so whatever. Pop them on there, and you want them to go on something that's flat. Don't put them in a bowl and already floured, because if they sit on top of each other, they will stick together, and you'll have this big fucking potato booger, which nobody wants to eat. All right, just like that. We'll roll another one. Just really gently, and you push in the middle and then kind of push out while you're pushing it along. A lot of pushing involved in that sentence. And just pop them out. Again, you don't want to touch these a lot. And I don't care what size they are. I like them to be different sizes. If you want to get your micrometer out and make these all the same size, go the fuck ahead, but it's not going to change the way they taste. Yep. Alright, there you go. Alright, then we can come over here, get rid of flour on my hands. Alright, so then when that starts to brown, it's going to separate, pull together, but you're getting the starting of that. You want to have, I took a quarter of a red onion, cut it into small dice. Boom, just like that. Here, get the rest of this shit out of here. Okay, and then 4 cloves of garlic, just small cut. Oh really? Fuck off. This is why cooking at home should never ever happen. Okay. Okay, so we've unplugged the fucking smoke alarm and we can continue on this. Alright, so what you've got your garlic and your prosciutto and your onion in here. And you really want it to brown up because 2 things are happening. You're rendering the fat out of the prosciutto and you're browning your onions and opening the surface of your garlic and letting all the oils out of that too. Everything that you taste is salt bound to oil. So we're just going to let that get all happy. Pat it down flat, bonk, put that there. And then we've got a decent amount of sage. Just cut it and throw it in. All of this is going to wilt down into a gooey, nasty, happy, there we go. I wish you could smell this because like sage and garlic are kind of like one of the coolest smell combinations. Now you could use another herb in this, but I wouldn't. This is as good as it's going to get. Rosemary I think is too strong and it overpowers the subtleness of the prosciutto. And I use red onions instead of shallots because they're a little bit stronger to stand up to the herbaceousness of this. If you have shallots, go ahead and use them, that's fine. Once this is all starting to brown, you don't want to burn your garlic because that'll make everything taste like shit. Just pour some wine in it. Don't need a lot, you just want a little acid. Deglaze your pan, and that's going to go down. So this is going to come up to a boil, and we're going to start cooking the gnocchis. We'll finish the sauce off, and then we'll put it in a plate and eat it. Bye. Hey, all right. So we've got this down to sec, almost dry. We've covered all this before. All right, you want a little bit of the wine in there because you're going to get that sourness. Don't add any more. I've seen stupid people put fucking like lemon juice and shit in here. No, that's enough. Chicken stock, a blonde chicken stock. See how light this is? This is good. Don't use a super roasty one because you really want the subtleties displaying themselves in the layers of flavor. And you don't need a lot either. You just, boom, that's it. Put this back in the fridge and you're good to go. Alright. So we've got our gnocchi rolled out onto a sheet pan. I'm not going to do any more because really this is enough. Gnocchi are filling. I mean, they're fucking potatoes and flour. Water's boiling, but we want the sauce to be totally finished and ready to go because you're going to boil your gnocchi off, and when they float up to the top, you'll take them out and right into your sauce. And there you're done. We're not going to fry them. A lot of people fry them. I fry them. But this is, I think with the creaminess of this sauce, because this sauce is a super cream butter balm, you don't need another fat component in there. So before you send me some vicious email about how I didn't fry my gnocchi or I didn't do them in a pan, yeah, go fuck yourself, and this is the way it's gonna be. Alright? Bye. Alright. So we've got our stock in there, we got our wine in there, okay, fine. So what you wanna do, come here. When you have little bubbles all over the surface, means that you're saturated with what's in there. So we're going to take cream. This is where it gets fattening. Mix that up. Gotta get all one consistency. Boom. Now once that's done, you can start cooking the gnocchi. If you have a strainer, like a little strainer, whatever, great. I have a spoon. I don't have a spoon with holes in it, so we're gonna fake it and drain off a little bit. You want a little bit of the water in the final product though. There's starch in that water, it's gonna thicken your sauce up. All right, so we're gonna take our little gnocchis over here. And again, you don't wanna touch them a lot. So you just wanna flop them in. A couple of them are gonna fall on the ground, that's fine. Potatoes are cheap. Boom. Now once they're in, give them a little bit of a stir. And you just want to gently stir, just like that. Just like you're poaching eggs. You don't want them sticking to the bottom, because the bottom of the pan is actually going to be hotter than the top. You don't have the ambient texture of the water, so just give them a little stir. You're going to have little flakes of potato nonsense like this. They're gonna come off. So if you throw your stuff in there and you go, oh my God, they're falling apart, they're not. That's just what happens. They're gonna come to the top, but it's not boiling. So what you want is for that to come to a boil again. You want butter handy, soft butter, leave it out. Putting butter in the refrigerator makes no sense. I think we've covered this before. All right, so then your sauce is nice and good. Now you want to taste it. You can use a spoon. I just stick my finger in it. Because here's where you're going to want to season it. A little pepper wouldn't kill this. Just to wake up the middle of the palate. All right. You don't want to reduce the cream a lot. So just let it go. When the gnocchi are finished cooking, you're ready. If you do it like this, you're good. You don't have to time anything. I'm not worried about. Don't cover your pot to get it to boil quicker. You want it to evaporate, you want it to get hot again, all your gnocchi come to the top, and then when it starts boiling again, they're ready to go. You're just cooking the flour out, really, and getting them to stick together. All right. We're close, so you're getting a boil, and when you get a boil, you're going to see that you have this like little foam on the top. That's your free starch, and that's why you want to use a little bit of the water. And by a little bit, I mean very little. All right, and again, you can see that you've got bubbles all over the place. So you can actually turn that down a little bit. All right, we got a rolling boil. Everybody's dancing around. Da, 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 da. Happy, happy, happy. Because we're not going to pan-sear these or fry them, as aforementioned. So you want to make sure that they're actually not going to fall apart when you pop them into the sauce. All right. You can just bring that closer so you don't drop them all on the floor. Turn the fire off unless you like burning yourself. And we're just going to strain the water off. And then pop them right in. And again, if you have a strainer, it works way better. I'm going to turn that down a little more. Right in. With a spoon, this is going to take a little while, but it's well worth it. Now you've got this really tender flavor of the gnocchi. Like they're not just a vehicle for sauce, which you'll find when you actually make this. The only thing that I would add to this that's not here would be some fresh peas. If you have some fresh peas, they can go in at this point and then just bring them out. You just want them up to temperature. Boil them, shock them in cold water, keep them green, and they're nice. But other than that, this is really kind of, it's just a perfect thing. I hope somebody makes this because it's really good. I made it the other night and remembered how much I love gnocchi. Do. I'm gonna got a few more in here. And yes, the spoon method is a pain in the ass. But okay. And once they're in there, they're mixed around, you just want a small pat of butter plopped right in there. Now it's going to bring everything together, cook. Starchy potato. And then if you have, everybody has this shit in their fridge. The cheap pretend Parmesan cheese. You can use the real stuff, but this actually emulsifies your sauce better. You just want a little bit of it in there. Boom, cover the pot. Alright. And we'll take a metal spoon. Have a bowl. And just put them right in the bowl. And if it turns out that you end up with more sauce than gnocchi, make some more gnocchi. There's the dough lasts for a couple of days. You can always make more. Right in there. All right. Clean that off. Those are gorgeous. They're good. And you will like them. There's your gnocchi video. Enjoy. Stay home. Bye.